Hello, I'm Danny.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Connor.
And this is DC Talk. Welcome back, everybody, to a fantastic episode of Marvel Talk. We're back with our boy Connor. It's been a while, but he had to come back for this episode, man.
We had to find some mother boxes, and we had to drop them in a pool, and then there was a whole like running thing that I had to do, and Danny had to drop it at just the right time, and and then it brought Connor back.
Yeah, guys, it's crazy. I'm even wearing black. I don't have a mullet, unfortunately. One of these days, but not yet. But yeah, it's good to be back. It's been too long. But you know what? Like I thought this was a momentous occasion because, DC Talk was always, me and Shelby always loved DC Talk. It was always a good little time to branch out, explore the other side of the superhero genre. And so I felt like it was appropriate to come back here because, in a way, this was the end game that DC never had, I mean, arguably, they still haven't had their end game because, of course, Snyder had huge ideas for, multiple movies. But the chances of that coming to fruition are currently up in the air still. Although, I don't know. Anything's possible. There seems to be a lot of support for it. But regardless, if you can't tell already what we're talking about today, we're talking about
Godzilla versus Kong.
Yes, Godzilla. No, you're right. Day versus night. Lizard versus monkey. Definitely Snyder cut. Zack, as it's officially titled, right? Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's got presence, when you say it all like that. I like that. But yeah, I feel like long time coming. This much awaited, much hyped director's cut. I hesitate to even call it a director's cut. I guess technically it is, but
to me, it's like a totally different movie. I don't know
really
about
is.
You guys, but I find it to be completely different from Joss Whedon's movie. If you can even call what Joss Whedon made a movie.
Yeah.
With all the stuff that we found out was just not in it. God, this movie added like everything back in and more, and it's a feast.
Yeah.
It's a delicious feast that goes on forever, and I love it. And I can't wait. I hope there's more. I really hope.
Absolutely.
Snyder gets to make some more of these.
It was a journey. It's like an epic tale. I saw some people kind of compare it to how like the Lord of the Rings films are, in how like the pacing and the setup with the act structures and all that. I'm like, yeah, I could totally see that. It made the 4 hours feel not that long.
No, it really did. The time kind of does fly by when you're watching it. It's really weird. There were moments there where I was like, oh, it doesn't really feel like I've been watching this for that long. And then I like shook my mouse to check it and whatnot. And I know it was like halfway done. I was like, whoa, I've already sat through a whole movie. And there's still a whole movie, like a whole feature-length film after what I have already watched. It's kind of weird.
Is that, like, I remember we got to around the 2 hour mark, and I was just like, oh my gosh, how much more of this is? And I was like, oh, we still got half a movie to see. That's awesome. Like, I think, like, it was once the part 4 thing flashed up on screen, I was like, oh, awesome. We still got, like, 3 more parts.
Yeah, the part system was really neat. Part of me does wish that it had come out in parts, is in, like, episodes. Because I do feel like that would have been cool. And part of me almost, like, as I was watching it, when I got done with part 1 and I saw the part 2 title card, I was like, should I just stop here and, like experience it in parts like that? But I couldn't help myself. I just kept watching it.
Yeah, that was the same thing we did. We just went to my buddy's house and he had like a 70-inch TV and we just plowed through that movie. It was awesome.
But I do wonder, I don't know, would it have benefited from that? It's hard to say. It was a neat idea. I appreciated the idea from Snyder. I do kind of wish that he had been able to release it both ways because I don't know. There's always something kind of interesting about being able to watch a story get teased out over multiple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's why TV shows are cool and stuff. But particularly something like what Snyder does, I think that would have been kind of neat because that was the thing that I was the most invested in was having the details of Snyder's universe teased out. I mean, I feel like if listeners go back into our backlog, back into the olden days, it's like the seeing the old gods fighting the dark side in the prologue. But yeah, I feel I've always been on record as saying, like, I love the new gods, like Jack Kirby's mythos that he created has always been my favorite part about DC. A lot of people like DC for the heroes, and their heroes are really good. Obviously there's if you turn over any stone, you'll find a Batman and a Superman fan, easy, right? But not so often do you I mean, it requires somebody who's actually a comic book fan to be a fan of the new gods, Darkseid, Orion, Highfather, all those characters.
Orion is so cool.
Orion is so cool, yeah. Talk about like a dream cosplay. I'd love to cosplay Orion.
That'd be so cool.
But yeah, the new gods have always been like my thing for sure. The fact that it was Snyder who had the courage to take that on, because I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of a weird concept. It's a little out there. It requires like a lot of backstory to get into. But Snyder actually had the courage to do it. And of all the people who could potentially have tackled it, there's nobody else but Snyder who could have, I don't think there's anybody else, and I know that they were going to make a New Gods movie. I certainly didn't have faith in it. And apparently neither did Warner Brothers, because they canceled it.
Right, yeah.
And part of that might be because of how well Zack Snyder's Justice League has done. That Warner Brothers is kind of like, no, pump the brakes. Hold on. Maybe there's something in this. Because, yeah, Snyder actually, like, I think tackles the subject well, because Snyder does know what it takes to have like a larger than life mythology. And that's one of the things that differentiates Marvel from DC, is the fact that, or rather DC from Marvel. Yeah, it's the fact that like the characters in DC are larger than life in a way that makes them unrelatable, which, okay, granted, like that might make a story worse. I don't know. Like it's weird. Like a DC hero is like an Olympian, They are like godly people, and they really don't have anything that relates. I mean, the easiest example is, to kind of quote or to draw from Kill Bill, right? The idea that Clark Kent isn't secretly Superman. Superman is secretly Clark Kent, and that is a big difference. Whereas obviously Spider-Man, for example, is Peter Parker and then Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Like DC characters, their superhero essence is who they really are. I would say the same is true for Batman, right? Like Batman is not Bruce Wayne, or I'm sorry, the other way around. Bruce Wayne is not Batman. Batman is Bruce Wayne. As in, like, when Batman takes off the cowl, he's not his true self. His true self is Batman.
Yeah.
Because you could say that, like, Batman's true self died in that alleyway with his parents that night, right? Mm-hmm. Which I love. I love that. And that's not the case for Marvel. Marvel's characters are very, very different. And so, because of that, that's the thing that I've always liked about DC as to differentiate itself from Marvel. That's the thing that Zack Snyder does correct. And that's the thing that Joss Whedon's cut of Justice League does wrong. Because it's not... It's a fundamental misunderstanding. And I'm not going to say that Joss Whedon doesn't know that that's the case for DC characters. I think he probably does. But he didn't get hired to make a DC movie. Joss Whedon got hired to make a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. Because when you watch, and you can go back to the Justice League review that we did back in the day, I said the same thing, but Joss Whedon, when asked to make Justice League, when asked to recut Zack Snyder's Justice League, basically just made Age of Ultron again, but like worse.
Yeah, like he tried to fix all his Age of Ultron problems, but it was just like a horrible misstep. So bad.
It's just so funny because like if you, I swear, especially when it gets out of the third act, like if you watch Age of Ultron's third act and you watch Justice League's third act, you're like, it's the same movie. Like, I don't know why they did that.
Oh, they have to save all the weird Ukrainian people. That's cool.
And it's funny because I wasn't sure like how much of Zack Snyder's movie was still present in Joss Whedon's Justice League. Of course, that was a huge mystery, and so I was kind of surprised to see. I guess there was no other way that it wasn't going to be a small like Ukrainian village or whatever, or not village, but it's much bigger than a village, but a city. But it's like very much in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's very much expressly Chernobyl. It's not like up for debate. Like that's Chernobyl.
Oh yeah, no, they make like they even talk about how it's like a high radiation area.
Exactly.
Like I'm like, nope, that's Chernobyl.
Which is so funny. Which is so funny. Oh, and it's also uninhabited, like Chernobyl is. Whereas in Joss Whedon's Justice League, there's like people living there, obviously, which I thought was really, really funny.
Yeah, there's people living there with little girls with bug spray cans.
Exactly.
So they can get ready to fight parademons or something.
Yeah, it's weird. People were upset. I think it was a Man of Steel and BVS with all the destruction in the city, and it's just like, oh, all these casualties. And Snyder's like, okay, fine, we're gonna have them fight here, and then people would say, oh, but who are they saving? Like, we can't visually see who they're saving because they're so used to the MCU formula, right?
It's like, bro, who are they saving? I don't know. They're still fighting on Earth, aren't they? Like
they're saving the planet.
Deal? Yeah.
That to me, like, is such a studio fucking thing to say because it's like, oh, our audiences are too stupid to understand that they're saving the planet if there's human characters in the scene. Like that doesn't feel like a normal people type thing to be complaining about. That sounds like a producer head.
Absolutely.
Like some producers like Zack, you gotta have people in this final fight scene or else how do we know they're saving anyone? And Zack's like, because they're saving the planet. Like the Flash runs back in time. What are you talking about? Like,
especially the Flash thing. Like all of reality gets like crushed, and it's like, well, so you can extrapolate that, like what that means, right? Like. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't think audiences have a hard time with it. I think you're right. It's producers underestimating the intelligence of their audience and playing to the lowest common denominator, which is what studios do now, unfortunately.
That's something that I really appreciated about this movie in particular, like this entire thing, is that it didn't feel like it treated its audience like stupid in any way. It was a very smartly written movie. Most of the story was told very visually. Like, there wasn't a lot of dialogue to carry you through different scenes. Like, they had just enough, like, exposition stuff to explain what was going on. But past that, you didn't need it. You were able to learn everything about every character through a visual medium. This is great. There need to be more movies like this.
So, gosh, how do we even want to tackle this? There is so much in this movie. Like it's so packed and it is very dense.
The only things that I was kind of just like I wasn't a big fan of, I guess, was just there were just some scenes that stretched a little too long. That it is very Zack Snyder. It went on a little too long. Like in the beginning when Batman goes to see Aquaman and then just the woman singing in Swedish. It just lasted a little too long for me. I was hoping it was gonna fade into the next scene while she was still singing.
That scene was so Snyder. It's so funny.
Yeah, that was a very Snyder scene. That was definitely one of those scenes where I was just like, all right, let's go. Next, we can go to the next part.
And I do wonder, like, what was he trying to convey? And I guess he was trying to convey that these people view Aquaman as kind of like a godlike figure, like a deity. Which, yeah, he's right. Again, Snyder is doing the right thing. He's conveying the truth about the DC characters, which is that they're not mortals. They're more than that. They're like something else. Yeah, and so I appreciate that. But yeah, I know what you mean. It was a bit like, all right, we're done, right? Like, yeah, I get it. It's one of those, like, it's definitely a very Snyder thing to do, though.
But that was like the only real scene music wise where I was like, that's just a little too long. Everything else I was fine with. And then I think as far as the slow-mo stuff Snyder always does, I think the bullets out of the Batmobile was a little too much towards the end of the film. It's not really a 3-act structure.
Yeah, well, as we've always said, Snyder doesn't do 3 acts. Like, yeah, that's not his thing.
Yeah, towards the fight, there's a specific shot where one of the bullet casings, like it tracks and follows in slow mo, and I'm like, I mean, we didn't really need to see that part, but other than that, I think that's really my only complaints for the film.
Yeah, I would say those are like my 2 big ones. I've heard a lot of people being like, how did Darkseid forget where Earth was? like when it's the only planet that he got beaten on or whatever. And I kind of am like, yeah, I sort of get that, but I think they explain it in the movie too, that like Earth was one among a trillion planets, and I'd imagine it might be kind of hard to track every planet you've ever been to if you've destroyed 100,000 other ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also I think the movie implies Steppenwolf was doing most of the legwork on the planet conquering.
I think that's the general consensus, because especially after he got beat, maybe I should pull back a little bit. My subordinates do a little more work. I'm gonna step out on this one, let my shoulder heal up.
And another thing that people forget is that the universe isn't like static. Like it's not like you could just go back to the same spot in the universe that you went to, like it in that way, and be like everything's here just like I left it, because like the solar system moves and the galaxy moves and like the universe itself conceivably moves. And you have to remember that Darkseid is a being that exists in another universe. Like Apocalypse doesn't just exist, like on that you can't just like take a spaceship and fly to Apocalypse. Like Apocalypse is on another like plane of reality. So I would think that like it's not exactly the easiest to just like go back to where you are. So I would say like think of it like early Age of Exploration, Christopher Columbus or something like that, you know. But like before that, think about like just that level of navigation, you know, good navigation and whatnot. But if you were like sailing along and stuff and you found some like weird island and whatnot, well, actually this sort of thing like literally happened during in the medieval era. Leif Erikson, he traveled from Iceland to America, to Nova Scotia, but it's now Nova Scotia, and kind of the same thing sort of happened, but like these like Icelander settlers, like, you know, settled in this area of northern Canada and whatnot, and then the Native Americans attacked them, and so they had to flee, and they never went back there. And they wouldn't just be able to like get back to the same place that they were at before if they had tried. Navigation just wasn't like there at the time, and that's assuming that like the continents weren't moving like the universe is moving. The universe, planets and stuff move around, so it's not so easy to just like get back to the same place. I'm guessing unless you have some sort of anchor point that you can use, like the mother boxes.
I was going to say, the mother boxes would be an anchor point, right?
Yeah.
Because they got left on the planet. So once they were awakened, they were able to find their way back to Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was the only way that they could find where Earth's location was, right? It was because of the mother boxes.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
I feel like it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. It does require a little bit of thinking. Like I won't deny the fact that and whatnot. And you could say that like what I'm doing here is like I'm just covering up a plot hole, and the movie doesn't expressly say it. That's kind of the thing that I like about the movie is that it does encourage you to kind of like think of things.
Yeah, it's not holding your hand telling you everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The criticism that I would have, and this is weird for me to say because I'm usually the last person to say this, but I actually think that the movie could have used a little bit more humor. Which is weird because I'm normally the person that like really doesn't particularly care for blockbuster movie humor because it is usually kind of dumb humor. It's kind of played to like the lowest common denominator, you know.
Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Like, yeah, there's a lot of humor injected into that. That's like, you know, whatever. Granted, Snyder does have jokes. There are bits in there.
Mm-hmm.
I find it particularly interesting that a lot of the Flash stuff was Snyder. It wasn't Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that it was Joss Whedon. Shockingly, I do actually think that there might have been it might have benefited from having a little bit more injection of levity every now and then. Because yeah, like Snyder does make very dour, solemn movies. That is kind of his thing. There's typically not a lot of humor in what he makes, and I think that that's, for the most part, that's okay. I guess just because the movie is so long, there were times there where I was like, man, this is heavy. Like, I wish someone would crack a joke. And that's rare for me to say. I'm normally not the person that says that, so it is very weird that I felt that. But that's like kind of the only thing that I can say, really.
See, that makes me curious about the original version of this film was going to be a 3-hour movie before they fired Snyder.
That's right.
I think before they might have cut it down to 2.5 hours for the runtime that they wanted for theaters.
That's crazy. I have no idea how they could have done that.
I mentioned in our chat the other day. Aside from the new stuff he filmed at the tail end and what you could consider post-credit scenes, yeah, they would have had to shave off a whole hour of the film to fit that time slot, which might have been too much. But I wonder if that ratio for the humor would have benefited from that.
Yeah, that might have been, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm on a level of like I think there was quite a decent amount of humor in this, and I dug it because it was coming from characters that it made sense to come from. Alfred and Flash, and basically Alfred and Flash were the only characters that had like good funny moments. Batman had a couple here and there, but nowhere near as obnoxious as like the Whedon version of Batman.
Oh, I can't. I went back and rewatched the Steppenwolf fight and like the end of Joss Whedon's version,
God.
And I was like, oh my god, I completely forgot about the "I want to be dead" Superman line.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wish I were dead.
Bro, this is so bad. Oh man.
Do you remember Batman's famous line of "Yeah, now something's bleeding"?
Oh yeah, that was the other one. Yeah. See, that's the thing is there were definitely moments there where I was like, that's way too like normal human being talk. That's not the DC characters. That's not how they do things.
Yeah, that's the Marvel thing for sure. Like that's Marvel dialogue, and I think that was the detriment of the original version compared to this one. But I think that the humor was there enough for me to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, like I said, it's weird that I would have that criticism because that's not a typical criticism that I would ever have about a movie.
Who do you think would have the more humor in the film? Because I could only think maybe. I want to say maybe Aquaman just because of Aquaman itself, but Snyder portrays him differently in here.
Yeah, very differently. I guess I would say that I do kind of miss Aquaman's humor. Yeah, because he's a very not funny character in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
A lot more serious. He does the "my man" line though.
That's true. My man is a great one.
The only thing I could think of is that, and then just saying it's badass Alfred. Like that's the only two things that stand out for me with Aquaman in this movie.
They definitely toned him down way more in this one compared to the original version.
Yeah.
I guess like the one other scene that I feel like could have stayed in this that didn't get kept was the lasso scene. Would have been cool.
I was thinking about the lasso scene, yeah.
But there is a fun moment though that kind of tops that for me in this post-fight with Superman, and like Flash and Aquaman are just like buried like arm deep into like the stairs, and Aquaman just points at him, and I'm like, that's so good.
Yeah.
Like that was great. And then Flash is like, I'm so sorry. Oh man, that part got me. I was like, that's good humor. I like that. That's funny.
Mm-hmm. I would say probably because of the pacing too, right, Connor? With it could use a little more humor to kind of
break things up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, like it's a criticism. It is a I think a valid criticism is that Snyder's movies are very poorly paced. But I don't care. Like I always say, I'm like whenever people are like, oh, Batman versus Superman sucked or whatever, and it's like, okay, like I understand why you would say that, but it's sort of like I don't care. Like it's sort of for those reasons that I like the movie, because it's not a movie. That's always been my explanation. I've always been like, nope, try not to treat it like a movie. It's a visual comic book. It's paced like a comic book. Which does that translate to the movie screen? No, it doesn't. Is that the way that Zack Snyder likes to make movies? Yes, it is. And he does a good job at it. So he's the only person who does a good job. I don't know anybody else who makes movies like Zack Snyder. He basically just does whatever he wants to do. And,
oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. Is that going to ruffle feathers? Oh, absolutely. Because, it doesn't follow with the React structure. It's not like a well-paced movie. It doesn't treat itself like a movie. So yeah, if you go into it expecting a movie, you're gonna go into it being disappointed. But like, so what? I don't know. There's an essence to Snyder that makes it's not a big deal. At least that's my perspective. I think is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've always liked the way Snyder handles comic book stories just in general. I always appreciated his adaptation of The Watchmen like a lot. Like he's able to really capture that visual flair of a comic book like splash page. Like that's something I've always thought Snyder's really good at is capturing that splash page image. Like I'm thinking of like this movie compared to Endgame, and like the ending of this movie is so much more colorful, and like exciting to look at than any of the final fight from Endgame. Because the final fight from Endgame is just brown.
Yeah,
and
the
mud
brown filter.
and like a mess. And like you can't tell who anybody is almost because all the colors are so muted.
Yeah.
But in this, you know exactly who is who in the final fight. Like you can tell where the Flash, where Cyborg's at, where Batman is. Like, and even Superman in a fully black costume still like radiates off the screen.
He almost stands out because of the black costume in a way. It's weird because there's so much color going on in that final fight that when Superman does show up, it's the black contrasted with like the glow of Steppenwolf's axe, the yellow glow and stuff. It's a really like cool look. It's a cool color contrast. And it's so funny because again, like I can't help but compare it to Joss Whedon's version where he puts a red filter over everything for I don't know what reason.
Everything is so orange at the end of the movie, and I'm just like, why does it look like this? Why did they choose to just orange tint?
That's really weird. Yeah.
Well, it's that Age of Ultron tint.
It is that Age of Ultron tint. Yeah.
That is true.
He hits it with the same thing because you know when in Eastern Europe that's just what everything looks like.
It's just red.
It's just red. Yeah. Because communism, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all that radiation in it, right? Like that's the.
Yeah, the radiation's red.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Snyder's a very visual guy, and I like all of the visuals that he injects into his movies. It's always really like unique and it stands out and whatnot.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, let's dive into some of the great stuff that came out of this movie. I mean, right off the bat, the beginning, just the way it opens with BVS.
Yeah.
That's one thing I really enjoyed about BVS was seeing the after effects of Man of Steel in the beginning and setting up the motivation for Bruce to have this fight with Superman towards the end.
Yeah.
And then seeing it here in Justice League, it's like, oh, now we get the understanding of why the mother box is activated, why Steppenwolf is coming here. And it's definitely way better than the Snapchat video of Superman talking to those kids.
Oh my god. With his weird face.
The lip thing.
Yeah.
Which is funny because like I actually don't hate that scene. I just hate the fact that Henry Cavill had to have a mustache, which I don't blame Henry Cavill for that. Why would you shave your mustache for a much better movie when you have to do reshoots for this garbage? But yeah, I didn't like dislike how Joss Whedon's Justice League opened, because it did kind of like bring it home. It kind of like made it more down to earth and whatnot. But again, that's not the DC characters' thing. That's not how they roll. They really do the essence of DC really is like when Superman dies, his scream, his death cry reverberates throughout the universe and draws like unspeakable evil to. That's the essence of DC. You know, you can't like break it down any better than that. So yeah, it's kind of weird. I did appreciate the scenes of like the world mourning Superman. I really I liked that.
I liked a lot of those like the Everybody Knows sequence from the original version. I liked that sequence from the original, and I thought that was actually going to be a part of this because it felt very Snyder.
Yeah, it did.
In the Joss Whedon version, but nope, just wasn't in this movie. Just wasn't in it at all, actually.
Yeah.
But I liked that the way they set up. I like that it all feeds into every scene feeds into the scene, right? So like Superman's death and seeing like the mourning like flag on the bridge in the Snyder Cut version leads directly into Wonder Woman having to stop the crazy bank robbery and explosion in Metropolis because Superman's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Wonder Woman has kind of taken up his cause, right? Like she's taken up his place to fill in the gap.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting that you're already seeing the inspiration of Superman, but in a visual way rather than in a direct way, and it's in a more positive way too. I think like a much more optimistic way than it would be than it was in the Whedon version. Because in the Whedon version, it's just like, oh, Superman's gone, so now everybody like hits each other and they rob each other's fruit carts and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But in the Snyder Cut, it's like, oh yeah, Superman's gone, so bad guys think they have a chance to do stuff. And then Wonder Woman shows up and she's like, nope.
Well, not that.
And I'm gonna vape as your leader because he's an asshole. So.
well, not just that, but I thought it was interesting specifically what those villains were about because they were like some nihilistic death cult.
Yeah.
Which
yeah, they were like, we want to reset the world. And
which is it's
take
kind
it
of
back
like
to the Stone Age.
On the one hand, I thought it was kind of silly because I was like, it's very like unrealistic, like I don't know. Nihilism is one of those philosophies that's like easy to say but hard to like actually do, and it felt very unrealistic for some guys to be like, yeah, you know, we're this organized. We have like all of these. We got bombs, we got guns and stuff, but our whole entire purpose is to just go into a public building and die. It's like that's an awful lot of sophistication for, you know, not a whole lot of payoff. And like, what was your game plan exactly? Like, where were you going with that? So like on that level, I think it's kind of funny, and I could criticize it on that level. But on the meta level, the reason that these like nihilistic terrorists are going around trying to just like blow themselves up with people and whatnot is because Superman's dead. So like, there's no hope in the world anymore. So these guys, like, that allows nihilism to flourish. That, I think, is what Snyder was trying to portray there. Isn't necessarily just that, oh, like, crime is happening and Superman's not there to stop it. It's that, like, this type of, like the depths of darkness that people fall into is because there's no symbol of hope in the world anymore. I think that's far more compelling, even though on the, you know, as it stands, it's sort of like, why do these guys have a briefcase bomb with a timer? Wouldn't they just hit the button and blow it all? Why would they have a timer? That doesn't make any sense. They would just like blow themselves up from the get-go. And they probably wouldn't deal with having a bunch of guns and suits and stuff like that. That costs money. Like, it's a lot easier to just walk in somewhere and blow yourself up. But
what if there is almost like an aspect of it to like, well, if we put like what we did before when Superman was we put timers on these things. So maybe it's just like carrying the habit in a way. I don't know. That's like, it's like, well, if we put the timer on it, maybe he'll come back. Or something. I don't know. There could be like an aspect of that. That's
an interesting thought, actually. Like, yeah, it's almost like leaving out this hope that there's still something out there. You know, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So there's still a possibility for something to come back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, nevertheless, I thought that like. That was one of those instances that it required me to think, because as I was watching the movie, I was like, well, this is dumb and this makes no sense. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, actually, yeah, that's the purpose of this scene, is to explain like what happens when Superman's gone, is that nihilism flourishes. Yeah, I mean, he's what Snyder's kind of talking about is he's talking about like postmodern society and, you know, not having anything to ground you, not having anything to believe in, and so you're just left to nihilism. Obviously,
well, that's like one of my favorite aspects of this movie, right? Is that we see Batman like go from that nihilistic perspective to one of hope, and to one of faith.
Batman is like a religious fanatic.
Really excited to talk to you about. Yeah. Like, Batman goes crazy with the religious side on this movie, man. It's awesome.
It's so interesting. This is such, and like, who would think that somebody would portray Batman in this way? But Snyder does, because Snyder does what Snyder does, and I think it was very interesting just to see like, how he was like, Batman becomes like this. He is religious in his desire to save the world, and you know, he's like, I made a promise to Superman and I have to keep it. And then when there's the possibility of resurrecting Superman, he's like, he's the guy who's like, no, 100%, let's do this. Like, we're going hard no matter what.
Well, and I like the change of that, right? Like, between this and the Joss Whedon version, is that it's not just Batman being like a crazy person, Joss Whedon one being like, we have to bring Superman back. Like, it's only him, and every other member on the team is like, nah, that seems like a risky move.
Yeah.
Whereas in this version, like, everyone is on board.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as one person thinks about it on the team, the whole team's like, yep, that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the risk is. We just got to bring him back. And I loved that in this version.
Yeah.
Like the camaraderie of the team in general, I think in this movie is far better than the Joss Whedon reshoot and stuff. Because they just made everyone so bitter in the Whedon version, which is very odd. Like everyone's like constantly like bagging on each other and stuff in that one.
Yeah, it's something about the conflict in your heroes that studios like to see, and I guess because it did so well in Avengers and in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, but Age of Ultron, I don't really remember it even having that much like negative emotions with the characters, you know? Because they have the scene like at the beginning of the movie where they're in like having the party and they're drinking and having a great time and they're like catcalling each other about lifting Thor's hammer, and like there's a camaraderie there that just wasn't in like the original version of Justice League. Like the team never fully came together like that for me. Not like it did here in the Snyder version. Like the Snyder version, the team cements itself super hard, especially like after they get Superman back. Like that's when I feel like they really like are brought back together, or brought together for the first time. It's very interesting. I don't know.
But yeah, that's to go back to the Batman, the character that is portrayed in this movie for Batman. Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite line, and I'd have to go back to get the quote right, but doesn't somebody ask Batman like how do you know it's gonna work? And he goes, faith.
Yeah, faith, Alfred, faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how do you know he'll come? Faith, Alfred.
Yeah. He says it so confidently. It's great, and that is I think the essence of what Snyder was trying to portray was. And that's the story of Batman in Snyder's movies. It's a story about a man who has lost his faith and finds his way again. Actually, you know what's weird is it kind of the only thing I could compare it to is M. Night Shyamalan's Signs.
Yeah,
you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mel Gibson.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. That's the only movie I can compare it to because I can't think of another movie that has tackled that subject before about, someone essentially like falling to nihilism and then like rediscovering their faith by the end of the movie. Of course, for Snyder, it's Batman versus Superman and Justice League that shows this arc. The thing I think is interesting is I think it's obvious that had Justice League Part 1 and Part 3 or not Part 2 and Part 3 happened subsequently, I guess what we would have seen was essentially Batman's faith being put to the ultimate test, right? Because he has to live the nightmare and fight with an evil Superman. That I think is really interesting. It would have been like nihilistic Batman and Batman versus Superman. Batman rediscovering his faith in Justice League, having that faith be put to the test in the ultimate way in Justice League Part 2, and then in Justice League Part 3, having like the triumph of faith, basically. A cool arc, man. Like, dang. That's heavy.
It's a lot deeper than a lot of the arcs in other superhero movies I've been seeing. Like, goodness.
Yeah, well, do they even have arcs in superhero, in the genre anymore? Like, I can't even, like character arcs across movies don't exist anymore.
No, they really don't. I'd say that probably the closest we've gotten outside of this movie is maybe the Guardian movies with Star-Lord.
Yeah, I could see that.
Essentially, having like a continued arc between two movies.
Although not between Infinity War.
No, well, Infinity War and Endgame, that like he's just there.
Yeah,
like, he doesn't get anything in those movies at all.
Yeah.
And I would have said that the closest thing that we would have gotten to an overarching character like change would have been Thor until we get to Endgame.
Exactly.
Where they just completely ruin his character.
Yeah, well then they do like the opposite of a character arc instead. And have make it like a instead of a character arc where is like a rising and the action goes. It's like it looks like a bridge, right? For Thor, it was like he was almost to the end of the bridge, and then the bridge blows up and he falls down. It's terrible.
Yeah.
If you want to call that an arc, I guess. And the same is true, I think, to a lesser extent. Shelby might disagree, but with Cap, I think is Cap, like, there's a noticeable arc in his character, right? Like between across movies where he's becoming the person who isn't just tied down to his past, right? But then in Endgame, they right when he's at the end of his bridge, they blow it up and have him go back to the past, and all that.
Which is crazy, right? Because all of the films Cap is in, it's been the same writers the entire time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
it's just nuts that he ends on such a different note compared to where he begins. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I don't know how they flubbed that. Because it seems so obvious. It's like you would think that they would just know to do the opposite of what they did of having him have a happily ever after in the past with Peggy, like that. All right, but whatever.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's what he wanted like 3 movies ago, but not now. Like it's kind of like the How I Met Your Mother ending, where they've built up all these characters in such a way that's so off the mark, and then they're like, oh, well, we're gonna just end it the way we thought we wanted to end it in season 1. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Just like the final episode just completely rewrites everybody back to basics, and it's a terrible ending to a show. But I don't think that happened here at all. I think that this movie has arcs for not just one or two of its characters. Like, I would argue that Bruce Wayne probably has the most important arc of the movie, but everyone has like their own character arc in this. Maybe save Wonder Woman. Like, Wonder Woman might be the only character that doesn't really get a lot to do.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I think it's just because of who she is in the film, right? Like, everybody sort of has their own thing going on. Barry Allen, he's finally being useful, being in a team. He has that quote at the end that his father told him. He's like, hey, I'm actually a part of something. I am one of these guys.
Yeah.
So he gets that. Aquaman sort of has the responsibility starting to hit his shoulders in this one, and him accepting it. And then, of course, Cyborg's whole arc is in this movie.
Yeah, the whole arc that didn't exist in Joss Whedon's.
Yeah, like, Cyborg didn't exist in Joss Whedon's, just in general. Like, he just wasn't there. But I would say that probably, like, I think the reason that Aquaman and Wonder Woman's arcs aren't as strong in this one is because I think Zack Snyder may have been looking at it from a standpoint of they both have movies.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Like, separately. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and while the Aquaman movie itself doesn't line up to this, like, 100%, because, Mara's British in this movie for some reason.
Yeah, dude, that threw me way off. I was like, bro, since when?
Yeah.
What is happening?
I was like, what? But I think that having, like, Vulko and everything, like, helps connect that a lot better between the two. Oh, God, just having Vulko in any way, shape, or form in this movie was great. I loved his armor.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, that armor needs to come back. That armor was so awesome. But they did such a good job of, like, fleshing out the characters who don't have their own movies. Like, like giving it to Batman and Flash and Cyborg to kind of carry it, whereas Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Superman are, like, supporting.
Yeah.
Like, was way better of a choice, I think, in terms of how to craft this film. Like, making the 3 most human characters the heart of it makes more sense to me.
Although I want to interject, though, that Superman does get an arc in this movie, despite the fact that he's hardly in it. But he gets a very, very crucial scene that it's bonkers that Joss Whedon doesn't have it in his cut. But the scene of Superman's 2 fathers encouraging him to take up the mantle once again. So good. So good.
Bringing back Jor-El and Pa Kent, man.
That was really well
good
done.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, that was so cool. And especially, that it leads up to the black suit, obviously, is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And the recreation of the Man of Steel flight scene, right? With
with
the rocks flying over his hand. Like, that was great.
Dude. I will always love Hans Zimmer's Superman theme. Like, anytime anything that Hans Zimmer Superman motif, whenever that show plays, it's like, dude, goosebumps. Like, I don't even know why. Like, it's so weird, but there's such it's got such like a mythical tone to it.
Yes.
That's the only thing I can describe it as.
It's mythical and hopeful, like, at the same time. Like, it just fills you with a sense of power and like and like just looking up and that kind of, like, I don't know. The Hans Zimmer score, like, being played over him showing up and beating crap out of Steppenwolf was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so good. And it's so much better than just having the 70s Superman song play multiple times. Which, don't get me wrong, I love the John Williams score. It'll always be cool. But it just doesn't connect with this Superman.
No.
I don't think.
Right.
Although, speaking of scores, I was disappointed that that Junkie XL didn't do some sort of variant on Flash's theme, because I did love the fact that, like, in Joss Whedon's cut, the Flash theme sounds an awful lot like the Flash theme from the show. I thought that was actually really cool, and I was a little disappointed that wasn't carried over in Zack Snyder's cut. I mean, I can understand why, and it would have been Danny Elfman, right? Would have, because he did the Joss Whedon score, so I'm guessing he would have been the one. It's funny that they were clued in enough to even include that, because it seems like such a detail that, I don't know. It's a funny detail. That
being said, I do love the theme of the Flash when he's doing the run back in time part, though.
Oh my God! You're right. That stuff is so bomb.
Yes.
That score is, like, it's magnificent.
Yeah.
Like, I like the way that it plays up that moment to just be the biggest part of the movie is, like, oh gosh, it's just so good. Like, end of Speed Racer vibes. Like, just the way that the end of Speed Racer has everything culminate into, like, this final moment of the race, and, like, every scene feeds back into this one moment. That's what the Flash moment felt like for me at the end of this movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it was just like, and it's like when he bends down and he's like, all right, Barry, you got to break your own rule. You got to go faster than the speed of light. You got to break your own rule, and you got to do it now. And then he just zooms and he shoots off like a bullet. And I'm like, oh man, it's just so good. And you hear, like, the desperation in his voice and everything. And I was like, Ezra Miller's a good actor, man. He's a good actor. Holy moly.
Yeah, and, like, talk about a scene that I was not expecting to be in the movie. Like, I did not expect that to happen. Crazy. And I loved the visual effects, again, the Snyder visuals and stuff, so good. Like, up to and including, like, the people like Superman's skin, like, being put back onto his body, right?
Yeah.
Dude, really freaking cool. And also, you know, it displays the severity if Superman got blown up, right? But it was, you know, it's not just like, it was like reality getting distorted. So, you know, it makes sense that would happen.
Yeah,
but,
it's like everything just basically got wiped out, even Superman. Like, nobody could stop that from happening.
Which,
like,
I don't even entirely understand why it happens and why it happens that way, but I don't, like, care necessarily. I think it's just so cool. Yeah, everything about it was just awesome. Yeah, dude. Crazy that was cut out. Again, like, you know, that great character moment for a character that we otherwise didn't really know about or get anything about, but Flash, you know.
Yeah, it's so crazy sitting, you know, thinking about this 4-hour cut of the film and how so much of this is just left in the editing room is crazy. At least for Josh Whedon's version. There's a lot of scenes that would help Josh Whedon's movie if he would have just kept those scenes.
And not reshot them either. Looking at both of these movies, it's crazy how many scenes just, like, reshot for no reason. Like, they look fine in the original version, in Snyder's version, and it's like they had to reshoot them to add terrible jokes. They had to talk about brunch for, like, 5 minutes for some reason. The Flash being like, brunch is dumb. Did this really need to be in the movie?
Yeah, why were you talking about this? The cringiest moment in Joss Whedon's cut, I feel like, has to be the, I know you didn't bring me back because you like me. I don't like you. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah, the awkwardly, yeah, the really awkward, like, Captain America Iron Man moment. Like, that's exactly what that felt like, was Captain America and Iron Man.
Yeah.
Not Superman and Batman. Like, not at all.
That's so awkward. I don't like it.
Straight out of, like, a shoujo anime.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's kind of...
It's more of those moments of, like, weird bitterness among the team, right?
Yeah.
Like, they never feel like they gel quite the right way. But in this one, there's like Superman has an active thing of like they brought me back and I got to find out why. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. God, I loved that line too. There's just so many parts of this movie that I'm in love with. It's hard for me to keep track.
Well, and I was just thinking about that line because you said it. Like, Superman has no idea what the stakes are at that point in time, right? I mean, I presumably it's Alfred who tells him the situation. Because before that, Superman has no idea what's happening. I mean, he just kind of like came back from being like crazy, you know. Oh man, as I was watching the Superman Berserk mode thing, I was like, oh. Is there going to be a version of Do You Bleed?
No.
That's what I was like, oh no, please don't do the Do You Bleed line. That was the one that I was like, don't do that. Please don't do that. Like,
which is obviously there wasn't, because that was obviously a reshoot because Superman had a puffy lip in that scene.
Yeah, he's got a weird face going on that scene.
But yeah, I was like, well, what's going to be in this scene? What's exactly going to happen? And that's another instance where the movie shows and doesn't tell, because in Joss Whedon's version, they are telling you that Superman sees Batman and is pissed off at him, by him like having a dialogue exchange. But there's no dialogue exchange at all. Superman doesn't open his mouth at all at any time in Zack Snyder's cut, and I think it's a lot more effective for that reason, because
and he just goes like, he wallops them too. Like, he wallops the other characters real hard. I gotta say, I love that they actually had Lois Lane be more present in this movie.
That's true.
And that she didn't have to have a lot of dialogue in her scenes. Most of her stuff was told specifically through the camera.
Yeah.
And like through like her just doing stuff. And it's like, I got everything that was going on with her from the very first shot we should see her in the movie. And I was like, the reasoning for her to be at Clark's statue and see him come back to life makes so much more sense in this movie than Bruce sending Alfred in a freaking taxi to go get her.
Oh yeah, it's so goofy.
Like, at the last possible second. Like, get her out of a taxi. That'll stop Superman. Like, somehow Batman knows that that's what's going to work. And in this one, it's just kind of like all of the heroes are realizing they messed up big time. And then Lois is so much more important.
Yeah.
In terms of how she fits into the situation, because she's like she's the only thing that could stop Superman.
Well, and think about moment. Like why Lois was going back there every day, right? Is like, it was. I mean, she was mourning, but it was also like that. You get the sense of hope again. Like she had a hope that he would show up again somehow.
Yep. Like every single time she goes. Yeah.
I love that. Also, of course, if we're talking about Lois, we can't not mention the freaking pregnancy test.
Yes.
Dude, talk about like integral to the plot, and they don't bring it up. They don't mention it. It's never stated. Snyder just allows the camera to do the talking. Wow.
Yep.
Man,
it's so good.
Any other movie would have like done something to like talk about it, you know. Any other movie,
Lois would have brought it up in the scene with Martha,
exactly.
Right? Like she would have brought it up in that scene.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like, nope. We're just gonna show it, and we're just gonna tell you that it's a possibility for a future thing.
Yeah.
And that's all I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
God,
that's it.
Amazing, and it also makes it much more like it ups the stakes for when Lois is killed in the future to cause the nightmare. Like it's not just Lois dying. It's their kid also dies with Lois, obviously. So like, it's a much bigger deal.
I'm pretty sure Snyder changed his mind about his initial idea for it, which I'm glad. Did you guys know about that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it, where it was like Batman. So the whole idea was that Bruce was going to fill the void for Lois while Superman was gone.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was during very early thoughts about the Justice League trilogy. It was going to be Bruce's child, but
weird.
But I think recently now he's like, no, that was Clark's kid. So
Okay, yeah.
I'm glad they changed that idea.
That does seem like something that Snyder would toy with, because he does like to. It seems like he does like to toy with those kind of ideas of sort of like injecting a little bit extra darkness and complications into his character arcs and stuff like that. I don't think that's surprising, but yeah, I am definitely glad that he decided against that. Because yeah, that would have been just a little too weird. Kind of jumping off of Lois, I do feel like I want to talk about Martha Kent. She had more scenes in Snyder's version, of course.
Yeah.
And particularly the scene where she goes to Lois.
I just wish that was actually her, and not...
that was literally exactly what I was about to say. That's something that I was really disappointed. Like, as I was watching it, when Martha morphed into Martian Manhunter, I was like, wait, yeah. Well, at first I was like green guy, and then I think that I'm going to say here that was not Snyder's original cut. I think that was an addition.
Because the final scene with Bruce and John Jones is also a reshoot as well.
Yeah. So I think that really was Martha in his original cut, but then because he wanted to put Martian Manhunter in the post-credit scene or pre-credit scene, whatever.
If you could call it that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta make the posters make sense, right? The unite the thing on the posters.
Well, that's the other thing, though, right? Is that scene, the reason he had to reshoot the Bruce and John Jones is because that was going to be Green Lantern.
Wait, that was going to be Green Lantern?
Yeah, the reason they reshot it was because the original shot of that scene of Bruce at the lake house, they used green lighting for the effects of Green Lantern. And then that's when Warner Brothers said, "You're not touching Green Lantern right now."
Yeah.
Huh.
Well,
Okay.
and now the story's changed a little bit more. I've been seeing that the story's been warped, that both Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern were supposed to show up at the end at the same time. And I'm like,
yeah, I was seeing that.
I don't
too.
know what is the actual story here anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what his original intention was, but whatever. He had another hero show up at the end.
Yeah. So I would have liked that better, because I liked the scene of Martha and Lois talking. I don't like that it had to be Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, because I really love that scene. I think it's actually like really touching and super
Exactly.
strong, and the acting in the scene is pretty great.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it's Martian Manhunter.
It totally cheapens it.
Yeah.
It makes the like these two women who loved Clark, who mattered the most to Clark, talking about him and like about moving on and whatnot, and then having it be like, oh, it's Martian Manhunter, is like, all right, so that kind of sucks.
I sort of get like the idea that like, Zack probably had like an inkling of an idea to do it, and they were like, well, we don't know if we're gonna get to be able to do another thing after this, and so Zack was like, yeah, okay, let's throw it in.
And there was no way, because they he probably did kind of feel the need to set up Martian Manhunter to some extent, because that was going to be his pre-credit scene, right? The ending tease. So he was like, well, I can't just throw this guy in out of nowhere. I think he could have, but I can understand why he would feel the need to not do it that way.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of the push for Lois in that scene, because all of her scenes leading up to that, and then having that conversation with Martha pushes her to go one final time to go visit the Superman monument, which, in turns is the right time to go, because that's when Superman comes back to life. So it could be that too. Was
she not going to keep going if Martian Manhunter hadn't intervened?
I would say yes, just because of the cop saying, I didn't think you were going to show up today.
Like, I feel like there was another line of dialogue before that scene also, or like during the Martha scene, I think, where she's like, I'm ready to move on. Like, I think I'm finally there.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Like, I've waited too long, and I have to start doing something, type deal. I don't know.
But also, how did Martian Manhunter know that would like play out that way?
Yeah, that's the only thing with it, right?
He's got telepathy. He can read brains. He can read minds. That's a power he's got in the comic books. So maybe that's how he knew? I don't know. The Martian Manhunter stuff doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in this movie.
It feels like it was just injected into to drive home the fact that, which we had already known from Snyder admitting it, but that, I forget the character's name, but the Air Force general was John at the time. Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, that could probably be it too.
Yeah, I think Snyder just wanted to like make good on that kind of commitment, because it was cool, like the fact that that was his plan the whole time, is awesome. Because like, and nobody knew about it. Like nobody that like talk about like keeping a reveal under wraps. Like, dang, dude, like, yeah. And if that had actually been allowed to play out in his series of films, that would have been awesome. Because, yeah, like who would have known? Nobody would have known. Nobody would have guessed.
Yeah, nobody could have picked up on that. Yeah. Like, that would have been awesome.
That's crazy. Yeah.
The awesome father-son story of Cyborg and his dad.
Yeah, that's like a good one.
That's actually executed.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else I want to say about it, just that I loved it. I thought Cyborg was a way better character in this movie than he was in the original cut, obviously, because he had actual screen time here. I want Zack Snyder to make a football movie. Like,
yeah,
I don't
you're right.
think I've ever wanted that kind of a thing more than after watching that football scene with Victor at the beginning. I was like, can he make a whole movie about a football game? Like, that'd be cool.
Well, it's kind of perfect because that's like that would be the perfect movie for Snyder to make in a weird way. Because like as good as Snyder is at making battle mayhem, like that's exactly what a football game would be. So yeah, it's really funny that he could use his talents for making battle scenes, for having a football game and having it be equally engaging. Really cool.
It's just crazy that like that football scene was as epic as like the Amazons fighting Steppenwolf.
Yeah,
like that was great. I don't know, like I just love like the entire storyline of the characters and stuff, and you got more of that car getting hit action from Shazam. So
yeah.
It's man, just everything about Cyborg's whole thing was great, and I love that there's like the dad had this crazy plan to hyperheat the mother box, and like every scene fed into like the next one. It's like everything was so well executed and connected in this movie.
Does Cyborg's dad even die in Joss Whedon's cut?
No, he doesn't.
He's alive, right?
No,
he's alive at the
end.
I think
Joss. Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, because he's there at the very end when Cyborg changes his look, when he like has the more comic booky armor show up on him with like the Cyborg symbol in the middle of his chest. I was like, okay.
I gotta say, one of my favorite moments, I think, with Cyborg was when he was telling his story to the rest of the team, and we get to the moment where the mother box activates, and we see how his body gets constructed. And visually, he's standing there watching himself be made. It was a really fantastic visual scene for him.
Yeah.
Because you really see the emotions in his face when he's talking about it.
Yeah, the way that Cyborg's memories play, like play, I don't know how else to say it, but that's what it's like. And how he's like being able to live them in a way. Really cool, very, very effective. Yeah.
And I loved how they handled Cyborg using like the internet and stuff too. Like having him be like normal Victor those scenes instead of like being all armored up. Like he still views himself as like a human. And then I love that at the end of the movie when the mother box tempts him with humanity again, he's like, no, I've gone past that. I can't go back to being that just to give in to the mother boxes. Like I was just like, oh man, these character arcs are so freaking good. So much more meaningful than anybody jumping off a cliff in Endgame for a Soul Stone.
Yeah, hammering home the idea that like these characters are more than human.
Something I was talking with my buddies about after watching it was I think that structurally this movie is really interesting because the first like 3 parts are all about setting up the heroicism of all these characters, right? Like showing how they're all heroes to one person or another. Like there's Flash saving Iris. Victor helping a poor lady with her money in her account, and then there's Wonder Woman saving all the people at the bank, and then Batman showing up to, I think his heroic scene is him showing up to help Barry, to recruit Barry is like his big heroic moment. That and him meeting up with Aquaman.
That's a cool take. I like that.
Yeah, and then we get to see Aquaman also like performing heroic acts for like the people of this like small fishing village because they respect him so much. Like,
and then saves the guy from the boat too.
Yep, the way they set up all that stuff is great. Like I loved it. Like I was just like, you get to see each of these heroes actually being heroes. They prove it in this movie rather than just saying that they're superheroes.
Oh, just to bounce back to the cyborg bit briefly, I was surprised as I was watching the movie that apparently a scene that I thought was a Snyder scene actually was a Joss Whedon scene, but it was funny that most of the scene is exactly the same, and what I'm talking about is when Victor and his dad are talking in their apartment. Somehow, something along the way, Victor tells his dad, "Oh yeah, you know something about creating monsters, right?" And then Victor's dad goes, "You're not a monster." In Snyder's version, that scene that's like just it, right? I thought it was interesting that Joss's version has Victor reply, "It's funny that you thought I was talking about me," which I thought was that's a really good moment. I always really liked that scene, and so I was shocked to find out that was apparently a Joss scene and not a Snyder scene. I would have thought that would have been a Snyder scene.
That's a bummer that didn't make it into this one. I forgot about that line of dialogue.
I really like that line.
Yeah, I was surprised by the end of how many scenes I thought for sure were Snyder ended up being Josh.
Or sometimes there were scenes that I thought were Joss that were actually Snyder, like Batman buying the bank. I thought that was a Joss scene, and that was a Snyder scene.
Yeah.
Or even the scene of saying that I'm rich to Barry. I will say one scene I do kind of miss that was in Josh's cut was the save one person line that Batman tells Flash. Because Flash is freaking out because this is his first endeavor into something of this scale. And to have Batman...
But this movie sets... I guess so, but this movie sets it up different, right? Like, Barry's much more confident in this movie as a character.
That's true.
Especially with his powers. Like, he's much more confidently set up in this movie. Like, he's a competent superhero before he gets to be in the Justice League. Like, because he's saving Iris and covering his tracks and everything like that. Like, he knows what he's doing in this version of the movie. So I kind of see how that line probably wouldn't fit this version of Barry compared to the one that was in Joss's version.
Yeah, because even in the crazy scenes with Barry, it's like when he gets shot towards the end, and there's another scene where he gets injured. Yeah, he doesn't really freak out like he does in Joss Whedon's version. So that's true.
He does still trip in this movie, though.
Yeah, he still does, yeah.
He still trips and falls, which I thought was funny. And I do like, I actually kind of like the way they play up Barry having the hots for Wonder Woman in this movie compared to the Joss one where he just falls in between her boobs.
Oh, yeah, the Bruce Natasha moments, yeah.
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 Yeah, you're right.
I liked that in this movie it was more character driven, and it was like Flash asking Cyborg, like, "Hey, you think she'd ever go for a younger guy like me?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's 5,000 years old. Everyone's a younger guy." It's like, that's great.
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
It was like, yes, good dialogue. I also really liked that in that scene, because in the original it was just Cyborg and Flash who went to go and get Superman's body, but in this one, like, everyone but Batman goes.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, we get that nice scene with Diana and Arthur talking about Atlanteans and Amazonians, and like there is some commonality between the two, even though they hate each other. Yeah. Yeah,
like their common phrase that they utter like to each other, and then like Aquaman is just like, "Huh, how about that?" And I'm like, "Ooh, this is cool. This is cool."
Good world building.
Aquaman 2 having Amazonians in it would be pretty neat. That's all I'm saying. If we got to see some more Amazonian versus Atlantean stuff, that would be kind of fun.
But to jump off the Barry Diana moments, I liked the Bruce Diana moments in here. Even though like they're very subtle, and I think that was good for those moments. Like when Diana first came into I guess it's Batcave. There's just that one line where, Bruce just says, "Hey," and then you could see like in their faces, there's something going on.
It's that same kind of subtle relationship they had when they first met back in BVS.
Yeah.
Very similar chemistry.
I don't know Snyder's take on it, but I wouldn't mind seeing Bruce and Diana in the Snyderverse like become a thing at some point. Yeah,
I think that would be cool.
I've always felt that Snyder has been the most inspired by the Justice League cartoon,
yes.
The Bruce Timm cartoon. That seems to be his ultimate inspiration, less so any of the comics.
Yeah.
He definitely seems to have like watched that show and been like, "Oh, this is cool." which I think is great because that show's awesome. So yeah,
I thought those moments were good. I kind of wish there would be more scenes of that in here, but I understood like that's not what this movie is about though. Bruce and Diana understand the higher calling that they have right now.
Yep.
Yeah, if there was going to be a relationship between the two of them, it would have developed through subsequent movies.
God, can you imagine how much different like a Wonder Woman sequel would be to Wonder Woman 84 if it was about her getting together with Bruce in that movie, and like Batman was just like a co-star of the film?
Oh, that'd be crazy. Yeah.
Hey, Wonder Woman 3, let's hope, man.
They could do it because presumably they're not going to do the same thing that they did. They're not going to like have it go back to the past again.
Yeah, I would hope not. I would hope that all of them would be present day. I like that they took out all of the weird, clunky dialogue of Bruce Wayne being mad at Wonder Woman for not being around. Bruce Wayne's like, what did you do? You went and hide because your boyfriend died like 30 years ago or whatever. This is mean. Why is Batman so mean? Like, yeah. I don't understand why he's so angry.
If you think about it, too, it doesn't make sense. I watched Red Letter Media's Snyder Cut video, and they brought up the differences between both films, and it's like, why would Diana say she's been hiding this whole time when in the opening of the movie, it's her saving these people?
I think that this movie makes Wonder Woman 84 fit the timeline better than the Joss Whedon one does. This movie actually makes all the other like follow-up movies feel better. Like the Aquaman movie and Wonder Woman 84 both feel a lot more connected to this than they do the Joss Whedon film.
Yeah, which to me, it still doesn't make sense why Warner Brothers says this is not canon.
It makes no sense. I think it's because they're trying to make it so that Wonder Woman 84 and Aquaman aren't Snyderverse. I think that's what they're trying to push. Is that those movies came out after, so they're separate, they're different.
Well, I don't know if they even have a plan anymore. Like now, I'm getting the sense that everything's in disarray and they don't know what they're doing. But, you know, Robert Pattinson's Batman is now Earth 2, right? Like,
yeah, it's Earth 2. It's getting a sequel. It has a spin-off show.
Things are announced things. They may not happen, but
the show is confirmed. I think they're working on it now. It's the Gotham PD show.
The sense that I get is that with how well the Snyder Cut has performed, now they're like, we don't know what we're doing again, like because they're Warner Brothers is like the people that just can't like stick with one plan. Like they keep doing this, but like they continually like erase what they're working on and try something new and whatnot. And I don't understand what they're doing.
They know they need a Kevin Feige, but they don't want it to be Zack Snyder, even though everybody wants Zack Snyder to do it. Like. News-wise, you know, Snyder Cut was trending for like 3 days in a row on Twitter. You never see that happen.
No.
You know, Restore the Snyderverse is now the new hashtag, and there's over 1 million posts about that.
And it beat out Avengers Endgame in terms of tweet count. Like, Avengers Endgame had like 1.3 million, and then Restore the Snyderverse got to 1.5 million in like 2 days. Like, it was crazy. If Warner Brothers isn't looking at this and going like, we need to shift back to doing Snyderverse stuff, they're making a big mistake. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they're playing it safe, right? Because there was, I forget her name, one of the production heads at Warner Brothers kept saying like, now that Zack Snyder's trilogy is done, you know, we're glad that this happened. You know, they're just playing it safe until either they decide like maybe this is the right option to go if Zack Snyder is willing to come back to Warner Brothers, and then they can announce, hey, actually, this is our new plan moving forward. I mean, of course, all the films slated that we know are going to happen, Wonder Woman 3, Aquaman 2, Shazam and Black Adam stuff, you know, that's all going to happen, but the connected tissues, which would be the Snyderverse stuff, I think, they should just keep doing that moving forward.
Yeah. And even if it just ends up being stuff that goes straight to HBO Max and doesn't end up in theaters, I think they should stick with it. I personally would love to see more like long running, like time code stuff on HBO Max from Snyder. Like, I'd love a Batman show done by him. Pattinson's Batman's gonna be cool, but I'd much rather see a Ben Affleck led Batman series than a Robert Pattinson one. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. Yeah. Especially considering the fact that they did a lot to redo Joker, which we haven't talked about any of the Nightmare stuff.
You're right.
And I love all that Nightmare stuff because it was just in his backyard. He filmed it all in his backyard. I can't believe it. It's so cool. Yeah, all that stuff in that post credits like Nightmare ending sequence. He shot the whole thing on a green screen in his backyard. Like, all the actors flew in. He had all the costumes flown into his house. like crazy, because he had to film it during COVID. The studio said, "Don't shoot this. Don't shoot any new footage. We don't need you to." And Zack Snyder was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do it."
Dude, absolute madman.
I like what he said. He's like, "Wait, there's rules now? I don't think so."
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm shooting it, and I don't care what y'all say.
How could you not like Zack Snyder? Like, when you hear stories like that, like, dude, talk about a guy, like, capturing the American spirit, like,
yeah,
just be like, nah, I'm just do it. I'm just gonna invite Ben Affleck to my house.
Yeah, I'm just gonna invite Ben Affleck, Jared Leto, Ray Fisher, and Amber Heard over to my home, and we're just gonna film a scene in the backyard.
Dude, we live in a society.
I can't believe the scene was real, and they made him cut it. And then he released it anyway. That was the best part. I was just like, oh my god.
What's funny too is that the scene, or specifically the quote, the "We live in a society" quote, feels so like ham-fisted when you watch it in the teaser version. But then if you watch the full scene, you're like, oh, okay, actually that actually makes a lot more sense.
It's like, oh, it actually works. Okay.
Yeah, but in the teaser version, it's just very like it's literally just like meme. Like that's all it is. But yeah, in the actual scene, I think that it makes a lot more sense in the context of, like, you know.
I think if it had been left in the movie, it would have been awesome. I don't know. That it was such a good line. I think Jared Leto doing Joker is like, I think there was some inspiration to that casting, because he was pretty dang good, man. I liked him a lot.
Like, talk about it's so funny how different he is from the David Ayer Suicide Squad Joker.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, who created David Ayer's Suicide Squad Joker? Was it
Hot Topic? Hot Topic created that.
Yeah, right. Like literally, what was going on with that? And I don't dislike Suicide Squad necessarily, but like I just want to know like who created that, because like the Joker that we see in Snyder's cut is very different. I mean, no tattoos.
Now, do you think that's because it's a nightmare sequence, or maybe that's Zack Snyder's or Leto's different take on it?
Well, I know that Leto was obviously he was disappointed with how it played out in Suicide Squad, right? And so he was clearly happy to correct the record and do the take on the character that he wanted to do. And the take that he does, I think, is very, very good. I mean, not. Although I there is a certain kind of charm to Leto's original Joker from Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
there's a charm in how like cringy it is and how ridiculous.
I like the sort of gangster thing he's trying to do.
It's really funny.
It's a different portrayal, and I don't mind it. Like, it's not something I absolutely hate.
I wouldn't have come up with it myself, but like, you know, the fact that it exists, I'm not mad about it. But then Snyder's version of Joker is radically different, and obviously like a lot more like disturbing. In some regards, I feel like the Suicide Squad version of Joker was done to be radically different from Heath Ledger's Joker.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas you can kind of say that the Joker that Leto portrays in the Snyder Cut is more similar to Heath Ledger's Joker. But even still, it's not really that similar.
No, I honestly would say that this Joker is probably closer to a comic book portrayal than anything else. Just the way that he interacts with Batman and everything too. Like there's a different edge to that than I think that the Heath Ledger Batman had. Because Heath Ledger Batman, his only thing was just to cause chaos. And this Joker feels like he's a lot more in control, I guess, to an extent, of what he's like talking about and saying and stuff. And his focus is definitely just specifically on Batman in this. And I don't know, I love that they have like an actual history together in this version. Like there's like a whole thing with Robin and Harley and everything going on. And I'm like, they do a really good job of establishing a huge history for these characters in a very small amount of time, which is something I've always been super impressed about with Zack Snyder's take on all of this stuff. Is that I've always thought it was very impressive that the Snyderverse was able to come together in like 4 movies, whereas with Marvel it took like 10 years of movies to feel sort of cohesive. But like these movies did it 4 movies in, and it was like I felt like these movies have been so interconnected, even with Suicide Squad, with how terrible it is, I still feel like it's well connected to the rest of the universe.
Yeah, he's not holding your hands building this universe, you know, with the fact that, oh, Bruce Wayne is Batman for 20 years, something happened between him and Joker which caused Robin's death. Like, we don't have to explain that in any of these films. We can understand because he knows the audience.
Like, you guys will figure it out. Like, this is the reason Batman is the way he is.
When I talked about one of the Batman films in the DC animated universe a while back, it was like, oh yeah, they're not holding your hand. They understand that you know the origin of Batman and everything else involved with that film, so we don't have to waste time explaining it. And I'm glad that Snyder understands that here.
It's like Batman Under the Red Hood, like that DC animated movie. Like, it doesn't have to establish Bruce Wayne as Batman. It doesn't have to show you the origin story. It's just like, oh, yep, nope, this is Batman, and this is where they're at.
Okay, do you guys want to do some original Marvel Talk style content and talk about do some theories? Because I want to know, why exactly do they need Joker? What's going on there?
Oh yeah, like, why is he the key to this situation?
Yeah.
And I love that there's a whole idea, right? That Joker's like, how many timelines have you had to mess and kill everybody in to get this one right? And I'm like, wait a minute, so Joker knows a little bit more about what's going on than the other characters seem to. Like, he's a little bit more aware of the fact that this is something that Batman's had to do multiple times.
Yeah, like, what does that mean?
Lois is the key. Is still, like, the biggest part of everything, right? Like, that's going all the way back to BVS.
Yeah, I would say it's probably something that only Joker can do, and it might have to do something with Superman, because the one worry, we have to do this before Superman shows up, right? And I could guess if they fail because of Superman, that's when Barry goes back in time and kind of does a do-over for the Nightmare stuff.
Yeah, like, tries to warn Bruce again about it multiple times type deal.
Edge of Tomorrow? Live, die, repeat?
Yeah, I would say that's probably what it would be close to.
I wonder if Snyder's idea is to do like an inverse of what happens in the Injustice comic books. Joker drugs Superman to make him evil, right? Like, to turn him to darkness and, like, Lois and all that kind of stuff. But maybe in this one, Joker drugs Superman to turn him back. Like, maybe that's why they need Joker.
Well, I have read that, like, some people have theorized that it was kind of drawing from Injustice, and that Joker was responsible for Lois's death somehow. Although, in previous Nightmare scenes, I mean, Superman makes it out like Batman was somehow responsible for Lois's death. But people have said, like, well, maybe Superman considers Batman responsible for Lois's death because Batman never killed Joker. And so Joker is the one who kills Lois. Superman blames Batman for that because Batman never killed Joker. And so then that gives weight to, I will fucking kill you. I've read that some people theorize that Joker's part of the team just, like, specifically to shake up Superman, just to have him present. However, I'm gonna put it out here. I much prefer the idea Joker is there because, okay, so let me rewind a little bit. So obviously in the Nightmare scenes, we're looking at a future where Darkseid has found the anti-life equation, right? And the anti-life equation allows Darkseid to break people's free will. And so that's what happened to Superman, right? Is Darkseid uses the anti-life equation on Superman in order to control him now. And I like the theory, the reason Joker's there is because Joker is insane, and so he doesn't have to follow the rules of the anti-life equation. So he's the only person in the whole universe that is immune to the anti-life equation, and that's why he's key to their plan. I like that theory. I think that's really cool.
God, that would be so awesome. Yeah, I really like that a lot. That would be really cool.
I think that's super neat. Everything about the anti-life equation, I think, is really neat. It's a cool concept, even though, like, it sounds kind of dumb. Like, I still like it. Again, I like the New Gods.
I really dig it. That sounds like a really good theory for why Joker got brought in.
Yeah, I think that's cool, and maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe it's both because Joker is responsible for Lois's death, and he's also immune to anti-life.
Yeah, I was reading some stuff real quick, and yeah, Snyder had plans for Bruce and Joker for the Nightmare stuff, and he at least wanted to give a taste of it here. If he can't come back and do anything else, it's like, well, let's just show what I wanted to do.
Well, can you imagine like scenes of Batman and Joker fighting back to back?
Yeah,
dude,
man, that'd be crazy.
Would be so cool.
Dude, talk about like never before seen stuff. Like, it's shocking. shockingly cool. It also would be interesting to see if Joker was like capable as a fighter. I think that would be cool. Because he's usually not shown to be a fighter, with the exception of Arkham Asylum. But that extenuating circumstances.
I would like to see how Joker actually like handles himself in combat, especially like against like Superman and the Parademons. Like that would have been awesome. There's another scene that got cut from the movie that they said that he couldn't put back in, which I was really bummed about. But it's Batman ending up in a parademon nest. Did you guys hear about this scene?
Oh,
No.
Yeah, there's concept art of it. But Batman would have ended up at one point, I think it would have been in the fight with Steppenwolf underneath the harbor, like on Stryker Island, which I found out was much more important that they call it Stryker Island, because Stryker Island's where the fight happens with Doomsday in BVS.
Oh.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the island that Steppenwolf is on, like, kidnapping people, is the island where Superman died, which I'm like, wow, that's a lot more weight behind it than I thought before, so that's cool. That parademon scene would have happened in there, like, Batman would have stumbled upon it, and he would have seen people getting turned into parademons in the nest.
That's cool.
Like, some of the prisoners would have been getting converted, which I think is a huge bummer not to have in the movie. You gotta cut it because it's scary.
Yeah, that was something I was wondering. Is I was like, where do these parademon guys come from? Because I know in the comics they are like corrupted people that Darkseid creates with the Omega powers.
Well, in Josh Whedon's cut, we see in the Steppenwolf fight that replaces Darkseid, we see one of the people from the human army get transformed into a parademon anyways.
Yeah, it's weird that we get it there, but we don't get it here, right? Like that's the part I don't get. I'm like, so wait a minute, it wasn't too scary in the Whedon cut, but in the Snyder cut, it's scary.
I'm guessing it was probably like much more visceral in the parademon nest.
I don't know, but then they show a trailer for Suicide Squad 2, and King Shark's just ripping people into pieces, and I'm like, what is scary?
Yeah. That's cool though. That's a bummer that was cut, because that's a great idea.
I would have loved to have seen that. And if there is a Nightmare movie that ever gets made, I would imagine that Zack would probably put that scene in there somewhere.
Yeah. That's got to be integral. Yeah.
It would fit way better into that, I think, than into the main cut of this movie, because that movie's supposed to be scary. Because it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I love that was going to be part 2. It's just basically just all nightmare stuff. That's amazing.
Could use a new actress for Mara, but otherwise, I'm super into it. Because she is not great at the end of in that nightmare scene.
Was she still British at the end of that? She was, wasn't she?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know why Zack was like ever. You have to do a British accent. I mean, okay, so I thought it was interesting that the Deathstroke scene. That is all Deathstroke and Lex Luthor, that all happens in Joss's cut. That none of that is altered.
The dialogue is all like completely different between the two versions of it. Yeah, they completely reshot it, and the way that Lex is shot is like way different. They actually brought Jesse Eisenberg back for reshoots, but the way they shoot him in the Joss Whedon is it's super tight, just on like his shoulders and his head. And in this version, it's like a super nice wide angle of him, showing him on like the whole couch.
Okay.
So it's like similar, but it's like completely different dialogue, because in the original version, there's no mention of Batman being Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that's
Lex
what I was going to say.
asking him if he wants to be, like, we got to make a League of our own, and it's talking about the Legion of Doom.
You're right.
It's much more comic booky.
Yeah, much more comic booky. Because this one of the ending directly teases what would have been the Batman sequel.
I guess that's
which
right,
would have been about Batman versus Deathstroke. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the differences between the two scenes are nuts. And I actually really like Jesse Eisenberg, and I think he's not getting enough credit for this movie. Everyone's raving about how Joker got redeemed, right? But I think there's a redemption in this film that nobody's talking about, and I think it's Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Because I think he plays Lex perfectly in that final scene. He acts like a crazy, like, megalomaniac who's super smart and smarter than everyone else who's around him. And not in, like, the way that he did in Batman vs. Superman, where he was, like, a crazy tech mogul. Like, this one, he just feels like Lex Luthor. And I don't know what change happened between BVS and this to make him feel that way. but he just comes off so much more confident and competent in the role. And I think I don't know if enough people are talking about Lex Luthor like that. And I think that that's a bummer.
Have you guys ever heard anybody defend Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor by saying that he portrays Lex Luthor essentially he's like doing an impression of Max Landis?
No.
No,
it's
I've
really
never
funny
heard that.
because
That's great.
if you go and watch Max Landis's videos on his YouTube channel, you'll be like, oh dude, this is Lex Luthor. It's really weird.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what he's trying to do. That's hilarious.
Dude, it's really funny. I highly recommend doing that. I forget what his YouTube channel is.
I think it's like Up to My Knees or something.
Yeah, Up to My Knees. Yeah, you're right. Up to My Knees.
Yeah. Because I was following him for a little while, and then he started talking about his new idea for a Superman movie, and now he's just gonna like race bend everybody, and I was like, no, I don't think I need to keep listening to this stuff for now. That's okay.
well, yeah. So just put Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor right next to Max Landis, one of his YouTube videos, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, they're the same person.
It's pretty weird.
They're the same. They're the same.
Yeah. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more from Lex.
Because I think they did a really good job of making him feel a lot more menacing at the end of this movie. I don't know. It was such a small taste of him, but I really liked it. And I love that Deathstroke even gets a couple more lines of dialogue in that scene too.
Something I thought was just kind of amusing in that scene is how it goes from, that's a scene with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke. And then, I mean, it is, I think, like the next scene, right, is the Nightmare, where Deathstroke's also in it.
Yeah.
And then he's got like a crazy mohawk too.
It's funny because like you have to take a step back and be like, well, okay, this isn't how the actual movie would have done it, because how the actual movie would have done it would have been really weird, because you literally just saw Deathstroke get revealed, and then you're seeing him like as part of the team in the future, and you're like, what? I don't understand.
It's like, wait, okay, so he wanted to kill Batman, but now he doesn't want to kill Batman? Like,
yeah.
What? Yeah, like, I can understand from, like, a layman's perspective it being really confusing going from that scene to the Nightmare.
Yeah, you definitely have to, like, take a step back and remember the context that this entire experience is occurring in, which is that, like, this movie wasn't going to happen. Now it did happen, and these are like ideas that Snyder wanted to do that he didn't get a chance to do, so he kind of just wanted to showcase what his plans were and stuff. I could totally see like the whole Nightmare sequence that we saw. Like, that was basically just a sizzle reel, because I don't think any of that would have actually like been in the movie proper. And if they ever make the movie full, I don't think that any of that will happen in that movie either. I think that's all. I mean, it's plainly obvious that that's all just stuff that he filmed because it was like his Hail Mary of like this is the only time I'll ever be able to do this, so I might as well showcase what I was planning and stuff.
It reminds me of the secret endings of all of the Kingdom Hearts games.
Oh, dude, you're totally right.
Like, it's like, this is the ending you get for getting through the 4-hour version of Zack Snyder's Justice League, because you've done it. You've gotten every collectible, you've done every side quest, and now you get your reward of watching the Nightmare sequence. It even looks like the secret ending to Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah,
when it's like the Keyblade War graveyard, and I'm like,
dude,
oh my
you're
god,
totally right. You can't get these kinds of takes anywhere else but Marvel Talk.
I even like the early Nightmare sequence that we get, just like the tiny one of like the Hall of Justice being like destroyed, and we get that little shot of Kilowog. So close to finally getting another Green Lantern thing.
Bring Ryan Reynolds back, baby.
That's all I want.
Although the Tom Cruise thing, that was always really cool.
I mean, I'm still always down for Tom Cruise to pop up. Tom Cruise would be such a good choice for Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculously good choice.
It could even be both like Hal Jordan's story and Jon Stewart's story. It would be cool to see. Tom Cruise is like, I mean, he's almost 60 at this point. It would be cool to see him be like a veteran Hal Jordan who's been Green Lantern for a long time, and he hasn't really been active on Earth. He's just been out in space and stuff. But he comes to Earth and meets Jon Stewart and inducts him to the Green Lanterns. I think that'd be really neat.
Having Hal Jordan be the veteran Green Lantern that's just like been around for a while, like, would totally make sense to me. Because I feel like there are hints of that in one of the other movies, like BVS or Man of Steel, and I don't remember which one, and I don't remember which movie has it, but it's like one of them talks about like a disappearance at Ferris Air Base or something.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I want to say it was. I want to say it was BVS that talks about it. Like it's just like a very blink and you miss it moment. But one of them has like a moment where it's just like, there was a disappearance at Ferris Air Base like blah 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 years ago, and like, oh, that could be an opening for Hal Jordan.
Dude, that's rad. That would be. That's like perfect. That's exactly what it should be.
Like Snyder's just had it planned out that he's just been off world like this entire time, so that's why he wasn't there to help out with like any of the events of Man of Steel or BVS or anything, because he's just been training with the Green Lanterns and working with them like to protect other parts of the sector. I don't know. Hal Jordan's not even in the Green Lantern Corps show that they're talking about making. None of my favorite Lanterns are, except for Guy. So I mean,
it's good that at least Guy's in it. Kyle Rayner is in it.
Yeah. No Kyle Rayner.
No.
They're doing it's Guy Gardner, Alan Scott, and then 2 Lady Lanterns that don't exist in the comic books. Or no, one of them exists in the comic books. I think it's Jessica Cruz that they're doing. And
Yeah,
it's
she's
like
showing
some
up.
random, and then another new Lantern, who is a Lady Lantern who doesn't exist in the comics.
Yeah, other stuff. I like Steppenwolf a lot in here. You can actually feel what he's conveying in those scenes when he's talking to Desaad and
Desaad, dude, Desaad is so cool.
Desaad,
Yeah,
Darkseid, and Steppenwolf are all freaking great.
Yeah,
I love the sad Steppenwolf memes that have started popping up. Like there's a whole Twitter thread just dedicated to sad Steppenwolf. Like, how could you be mad at him? Look at his eyes. And I'm like, this is a weird trend, but I dig it. They made him a very sympathetic character, even though he's like murdering Amazonians and stuff left and right.
Well, yeah, and he's not a complete coward like in Joss Whedon's version.
Well, yeah, he doesn't get eaten by the parademons because he's afraid.
That was so lame. Yeah, this dude fights to the end. Like even after his axe gets broken, he's still like trying to fight Superman. The Snyder version of his death, like talk about like, well, it was a complete overkill, but like how it's so Snyder. Everything about it.
It was
is
the
so
most
Snyder,
Snyder
like,
death scene you could have for a bad guy. Like it was great.
Oh,
And then,
absolutely.
like,
slow-mo decapitation, and then through a portal. Like, it's so good.
Yep. And I loved Darkseid. I thought he was awesome. I loved his animation. I loved everything about him. He was great. He was really scary in the flashback scene. They had a mirrored deal for when Steppenwolf finds out that the anti-life equation is on Earth. Like, they mirrored him doing the motions of Darkseid from the flashback battle. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the Darkseid stuff was great.
One thing we didn't really bring up, but yeah, like how bloody this movie is compared to, well, because it is rated R, and it's a nice touch.
They took advantage of it.
Yeah, especially when he cuts off the Lantern's hand. You know, like that has a different impact from just the Lantern just falling in Joss Whedon's cut.
And there's a particular scene that just I love in this one where like Batman shoots a parademon, and then there's just like blood on the lens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it like stays there for like 30 seconds, and I'm like, whoa! And then you get to see Darkseid like kill Aquaman in like the future vision that like Cyborg has. You get to see it happen. Like I was like, oh my god, they actually did it. They kill Aquaman on screen, and I love that ties into the Nightmare sequence, because that's why Mara's got the staff, like the trident, and it's the Aquaman movie trident. It's not like the mom's trident, which I thought was kind of neat.
It implies like the time gap in between Justice League and when Darkseid shows back up to Earth.
Yeah, like there would have been like a bunch of single movies of all the characters, I think, and then we probably would have gotten Justice League 2. God, that would be so cool.
So here's a question. Was there ever a plan to have Shazam factor into Zack Snyder's arc, or did all of that just like happen afterwards?
I want to say Shazam was post Snyder. However, I think that he would fit supremely well now. Snyder dug what David Sandberg did. I would hope. I would hope they'd way to get Shazam into there. I don't know.
Well,
that'd be really cool.
Black Adam's been planned from the beginning. Like Black Adam's
since before Iron Man came out. Yeah,
dude, Black
Adam's been planned since before this all down. So
Black Adam is like DC's version of Channing Tatum's Gambit, right? Like the movie that like has always been planned, that's been cast, that's really like the only thing that's ever happened about it was that the main character was cast.
Yep.
But like that movie wouldn't exist without The Rock. Yeah, like what is happening with that?
Yeah, they're sort of like setting up their own stuff with Shazam and Black Adam. And how like those are gonna tie together.
I really want Shazam to be in with Snyder's universe. Like, it'd be so cool. Especially, I would love to see how Shazam factors into the Nightmare. Like, I want that to happen.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like, see like what he looks like after the like post Nightmare, or if he like got possessed by Darkseid or something.
It would be great if Superman killed Shazam.
I still want a Superman to show up and team up with Shazam to fight Black Adam. I think that would be great to see.
I know, because that animated movie's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, the animated movie's so good.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
I think that could also solve, like, I guess the comedic thing we were talking about earlier. With this film, if we have somebody like Shazam to show up in here, who is a child that does get humorous when he turns into Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
Yep. And he could play off really well with Flash, and I would say maybe even Batman too.
I think even just like having like just all of the Flash family show up would be really cool, actually.
Yeah, the Shazam family, you mean?
Yeah, like having the Shazam fam just be a part of it would be really rad.
Yeah.
I think that would add some super lightheartedness, or at least even just like maybe just Billy and Freddy. Like, you don't necessarily have to have the whole family come in, but have at least Billy and Freddy, because they're like the heart of the movie.
Yeah, it's tough to come up with a way that Shazam could possibly factor into Snyder's arc, because like he is a very different character. Yeah, he is a very like lighthearted character, and it would be good to have that injected into the movies, to have some levity like that. But also, he's so ridiculously powerful. I mean, he's, about as strong as Superman.
I would say when Superman turns, Shazam probably fights him for the first time before things really hit south for the Nightmare stuff.
I would love to show like the severity of the situation, because it would be great. It would be great if we had already seen Superman and Shazam fight for the first time and see them be like equal, like of equal power, and then when Superman gets turned, everybody's like, well, it's okay, we have like Shazam will find a way to, Shazam can fight him, right? And then have Shazam and Superman fight and have Shazam die, and then it's like, oh yeah. Dude, the stakes I guess that means.
And you kill off Shazam the same way they do it in Injustice, right? Like have them do the eye burning deal. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that scene in Injustice? Like,
I've never seen it, but I know how it goes down. I should go watch.
It's violent, man.
It.
Like Superman just like he covers Shazam's mouth so that he can't like talk. Then he freezes his face, and then he heat visions him through the forehead.
Wow,
it's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal, and I was like, whew. Zack Snyder would definitely do something like that. Like that's.
Yeah, that would be smart. Because it would show the severity of the situation, and like the fact that like there's nobody else can stop this guy.
That would be such a huge punch too, right? Because Shazam is such a lighthearted character, and to have him go out like such a crazy way would be super impactful.
It's almost like too much. Like it's like, God, that'd be so brutal. That's just ridiculously dark. But that would be the scene that like audiences would be really devastated by. Because you are killing a kid also, like that's,
But this movie does a really good job of just like letting the characters each have like just time to breathe and talk and like have conversations with each other, which I'm like, man, I miss that in superhero movies. Like I just keep thinking back to like the dinner scene in Spider-Man 1, like the Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh yeah,
like,
dude.
There's no action. It's just a dialogue scene, but it's so engaging. Because all the characters are so well written, and I felt like that was what a lot of the talking scenes in this movie felt like for me, especially like, like the grave digging scene and stuff back at like the Batcave, and like them like meeting up and going to like the roof with Alfred, or not with Alfred, with Commissioner Gordon, which I was really surprised that the entire Commissioner Gordon scene was the same, from here to the Joss Whedon cut, like. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I was bummed that we didn't get more Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more of him.
I do have to say that I did, even though it kind of doesn't make any sense, I did like the scene of Batman hunting the Parademon in Joss's cut.
Yeah, there is that shot specifically of on the rooftop where the bad guy's up there, and then you just see Batman on top, like next to those statues.
That was really cool.
Yeah, like that's a good
I was like,
shot.
that was great.
like it better in this one though that he doesn't have like a clue what's going on, and it's Wonder Woman coming to him to kind of explain everything.
Yeah, the parademons don't blow up and show like the mother boxes.
Like they don't paint the mother boxes on the wall in their blood.
Yeah, it's so
I totally
weird.
forgot about that.
Yeah, that's why Bruce knows about them. He's like, I know about the mother boxes already because I saw them get blown up and they were on a wall.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No, like, did they leave that calling card everywhere they go? Like, what? How does that work? Like,
yeah, why?
yeah, like why is that
Literally why?
the end all of it? Like, why would you want to tell everybody that that's what you're looking for? I don't.
And like, how does Batman know that they're drawn to fear?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right. Like,
how does he know that?
I can smell.
Yeah,
fear.
yeah.
Like he hangs the guy off the rooftop, and it's like, what are you doing, man? Like,
Yeah.
one other thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was really cool was like the mystical aspects of like the Themyscirans and them like having like this really sacred ceremony for using Artemis's arrow, and
Oh, yeah.
when they have to fire it off,
yeah.
and I was like, man, that reminds me a lot of Thor 1, like Thor 1 and 2.
I was about to say the same thing.
Ah, man, it reminds me a lot of when Thor was good, and I was like, oh boy, this is cool. And I love that there's only like there's only like 3 arrows left, like from Artemis's stores of arrows, and I'm like, so they have a limited amount and they can only do so much with them, and I'm like, that's cool.
Well, and think about what that would have meant for the other films in the series.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no, that's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's that's neat.
Like, what more would they have needed those arrows for?
Yeah, like what's
I don't know.
a bigger threat for like the arrows being used? And would Wonder Woman go back to retrieve the other arrows to use them in battle?
Dude, that would have been so dope.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Oh man, like if she showed up back at like the island and she was like, "All right, I need those last 2 arrows you got from Artemis. I got 2 shots."
Oh, see, that would have been perfect too, because she would have missed one of the shots. One of the shots would have missed, but then the other one would have landed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know who she would have fought. Like somebody on Darkseid's crew, obviously.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking
I'm
thinking either like Granny Goodness or Desaad.
I was gonna say those are the 2.
Yeah.
Could be,
Man, I just want Big Barda now to show up in these
I was about to say, dude, Big Barda and Mr. Miracle.
God, that would be so cool.
Right?
Oh, that would be so awesome in these movies, man. Oh my gosh. I'd even love to see Calabac, man. That would be so cool. I really hope Snyder gets to make more of these. That's where I'm sitting right now. I want more of these from Snyder.
I wonder if the life equation would have factored in, because that's like the other dualistic side of the anti-life equation is the life equation.
What if the life equation is the Kryptonian DNA written into Superman?
Oh, dude, that's good. That's pretty good. I'm gonna say send it. I think that's a great theory.
Yeah, I 100% believe that would have happened.
I'm wondering how could they factor that in to Superman's child as well. He would have had the DNA code written.
Well, I know Snyder's plan for Clark's child was he was going to be the new Batman at the end of Justice League 3, I think.
Yeah, he was going to take up the mantle. Like at some point in the situation, Batman would have sacrificed himself, and then Superman's son wouldn't have gotten any powers. He would have just taken up the mantle of Superman or of Batman.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I am curious to see what the 3-hour cut would have been for this originally. But I am glad we got this 4-hour version.
Yeah, I've never been one to say that I wish a movie was shorter. I've always liked long movies.
Did you guys actually see the concept art of the Green Lantern suit paired up right next to Granny Goodness's concept art?
Ah, dude, Granny Goodness looks great too.
Granny Goodness looked awesome. I love the design.
Yeah, I was hoping we would have had more with her in the movie.
At least the speaking line would have been cool. Yeah, I thought Green Lantern. I thought Jon Stewart looked pretty dang good.
Well, guys, thanks for having me back on. It's really been a pleasure.
It was good to hear your voice again on here, Connor.
Well, thank you. I might be returning for some more if things continue to go well. I might just be the DC talk guy. I don't know.
Yeah, if we get more Snyderverse stuff, exactly.
Yeah, for real. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but like the new stuff Marvel's bringing out, it's not great, right?
You're correct.
Yeah,
That's too bad.
You're on it. Yeah, you got it. As far as I'm concerned, Marvel still ended with Endgame.
Dude, that's a bummer. I can't believe that they had all this potential to make these shows good and stuff, but the Loki teaser or trailer or whatever, I actually was like, I came away from that kind of hopeful. I actually thought that looked kind of cool.
Honestly, the newest trailer they dropped was pretty solid. I gotta say, I like the humor of it not being like super over the top Thor Ragnarok levels. Like it's a nice, like, kind of understated, and I like that it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of taken some cues from Umbrella Academy a little bit, I think, in the way that they're
I can see that. Yeah,
like the time variance authority stuff feels very much the same as the time travel people in Umbrella Academy.
That might be worth exploring. I don't know. I haven't even. I never. I even bothered to try WandaVision, and I haven't watched Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, WandaVision.
Strong start, but the ending kind of just
really. Yeah.
Those final like 3 episodes, man. Those are hard to get through.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
they're pretty rough.
And I'm watching Falcon Winter Soldier, and I was talking to Jake about it earlier. And I'm like, I don't feel like talking about it on Marvel Talk, if I'm honest.
Dude, that sucks.
Yeah,
that's the worst, is when you don't have anything to say about it.
Eventually, I'm gonna binge it, but we'll see how that goes. I don't know.
Well, man, so the only thing I've really been interested in from Marvel has been Doctor Strange, and I guess whatever they're doing with Spider-Man. If Tobey Maguire's in it, I'm in it. That's all that matters.
If Andrew Garfield's in it, I'm in it. Like
him too, for that matter. Yeah, I just want to see the boys. The boys are back in town.
If they can get the boys back in that movie, I'm down. I'm into it,
dude. That's what matters.
Yeah, and then that'll be it. I'll be like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. Yo, but new season of My Hero.
Yeah, I haven't started watching yet. Oh man.
Yeah, dude. Well, the first 3 episodes are just recap episodes, so it's not a particularly big, but they're very good episodes though.
And I'm caught up on Attack on Titan. That final episode was baloney. That was the biggest blue ball of an episode I've watched.
Has it ended yet?
Yeah, the new season just ended. But they're doing another half of it later.
Because the manga hasn't released its final chapter yet, right?
Yeah, Friday.
Friday's
will be the last
Friday's
chapter.
The end. Okay.
Yeah, they ended it with Eren transforming back into the Titan.
Well, I haven't watched it yet, so I'll.
Okay.
I need to see it.
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Okay. Yeah.
I
need to actually sit down.
I'm just warning you right now. It's a pretty bad blue ball episode. That final
really?
episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because it's like it leads you. There's a lot of good build up, and then it's just like no. How long do we have to wait? When that to be continued like screen comes up, I was like, oh.
Well, hey, at least it won't be as long as the wait between season 1 and season 2, right?
That's true.
That'll never happen again.
But I guess it's supposed to start back up later this year.
Okay.
Is when Attack on Titan's supposed to come back. So
that's cool. That's a really brief hiatus. Then that's hardly even a season gap difference. That's that's cool.
Yeah.
It really feels like it's like, we got like half the season done while COVID was happening, and then we kind of had to stop production, and now we're coming back into it.
That's cool. Okay.
It's very much how
I need to jump on Attack on Titan because I know everybody tells me it's good. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It's solid stuff, man. That's some good stuff.
Dude, anime is always bringing it. Man, I love me some anime. I gotta get into Record of Ragnarok.
That you would like that, I think.
Dude, I definitely would. You know who'd make a good Record of Ragnarok movie?
Zack Snyder. Probably, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
Before we end anime talk, there was that trailer for the 3rd My Hero movie, which looks great.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, dude. I can't believe they're making a 3rd one. It's crazy. Yeah.
It was just a quick teaser, but the suits look great. And I think we were talking about it, right, Connor, of how it kind of feels like what's going on in the manga.
I don't know where it's supposed to take place. I think I'd read that it's supposed to take place during the Endeavor internship training arc.
Okay.
Because there is kind of a time gap there.
Yeah.
So I
could see it fitting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That trailer looked pretty good for the new movie. I was
Jake, have you seen either of the My Hero movies?
I've seen both My Hero movies, actually.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
And I gotta say, the second one is far better than the first one. First one still got like that really cool moment of like All Might and Deku doing stuff, but second movie,
the first movie is really only good for the final fight.
Yeah, but the second movie is just great all the way through, I think.
Yeah, the second movie is like just a shockingly like really good movie, and like the way it ends, you're sort of like, well, that could have just been the ending of the show. Like, they could have just ended it right there.
And I mean, I still remember you, Connor, telling me about how that was supposed to be an ending of the show originally.
That was what Horikoshi said. Yeah,
and then, like it's just grown to the point where he's just like, I just keep thinking up new endings, so I'm just going to keep writing it. So
I think that's a great like idea. Like, I have to wonder, like, I guess at some point in the early production of My Hero, I would assume that he had an idea of having All Might and Deku team up to fight the big bad. And so that's why movie one is that, and then the second movie is Deku and Bakugo teaming up to fight the big bad, and then so who knows what this third movie is going to be then? Like,
and then
this is going to be the other alternate ending.
And then
I'm loving these alternate endings.
Yeah, right. And isn't it interesting that the villain that they fight in the second movie just so happens to have a lot of the same powers as one? All for One. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, it's so obvious what he was doing. But I like that. What that means, though, is that because, like, you know, before that movie had come out, I was like, you know, I seriously could see them doing a like Bakugo and Deku team up to fight All for One in the final act of the series. But then they do it in the movie, so obviously it can't be that. So by process of elimination,
they got to do something bigger. Yeah,
it's got to be something bigger.
Man,
Jake, have you heard my theory on how the final fight's going to end? So my theory, and it's kind of a long theory. I don't even know if this at what point, what episode are we even recording it? This is like literally like Zack Snyder's cut with like a weird ending. This is like the nightmare ending where we talk about anime.
This is the Marvel Talk nightmare ending. This is it.
Yeah, but my theory is that well, for one, All for One is Midoriya's dad.
Yeah, I've held true to that one for a long time.
I think that that's the case, and my theory has always been that Midoriya did have a quirk, and that quirk was he has All for One. He has the ability to steal quirks, and what's going to happen is he's going to be forced to give All for One, or he's going to be forced to give All for One for all. He's going to be put in a situation where either his mom or Bakugo are their lives are threatened, and All for One is like, you have to give me One for all, or I'm going to kill him. And so he's going to do it. He's going to be like, you know, fine, and give him the quirk, and that which has been what All for One has wanted this whole time. And so All for One gets One for all back, because my assumption is that was all part of his plan, was to create this like basically god quirk that he could just like let build in power, so that he could just reabsorb it later and be even more powerful than he already is.
Because is part of the story is that One for All came from All for One's brother, right? Like, isn't that part of the storyline? Like that, like that's where it came from, was the brother of All for One.
Exactly. Yeah. All for One gave
One for All.
He gave the stockpile quirk.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It was the stockpile quirk. He gave that to his brother, and that quirk merged with the quirk that his brother already had latent in him, which was the ability to pass on his quirk, and they merged to become two quirks, which became One for All.
Gotcha, that's what it was.
And so but so my assumption is that was All for One knew that would happen, and that was intentional, so that he could, and he specifically like kind of inculcated this hatred for him in his brother, or not so much hatred as just like, you know, resentment or like desire to stop him, so that he would specifically go out of his way to pass on the quirk to successors in order to build its power, and then when the time was right, when the quirk had matured, All for One would return to take it back from whoever the current wielder of One for All was. And so my theory is that it's going to be Midoriya, and so he's going to take the quirk back from Midoriya, because he can't reabsorb the quirk, even though he has All for One. The only quirk that is immune to All for One's power of taking quirks is One for All. So it has to be
willingly given, right?
It has
like,
to be willingly given. That
yeah.
Exactly, just like All Might says, it's baked into the cake. Like, no, you can't just take it. So he has to force Deku to give it to him, and so then Deku's going to have no quirks, right? And so that's a problem. And All for One is going to be like a god, basically. He's going to have One for All. He's going to be ridiculously powerful. But then somehow Deku will realize that because he's All for One's son, he secretly had All for One, the quirk, the whole time. And so what he's going to do is he's going to ask all of his classmates to give him their quirks, so that so that he's going to absorb all of their quirks at once, so that he'll have all of their quirks, and then he's going to fight All for One.
Oh man, that would be crazy.
I'm calling it right there, 100%. That's what's going to happen. And when when it does happen, I want everybody to remember that I called it first. That I said that's what's going to go down.
All right, so you got the Deku is All for One theory, and I got the Superman is the life equation theory.
Yes,
yeah,
dude,
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, and another addition, I think, to my theory is that we know that obviously Deku keeps his little notebook where he's cataloging all of the quirks, right? He like takes notes about everybody's quirk. We know that All for One has stated that he similarly has a weird obsession with quirks, where when he finds a quirk that he's interested in, he wants to know all about it. I think that's just a feature of having All for One is having like a weird autistic desire to understand a quirk,
like a quirk obsession. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that a lot, actually. That's a cool idea.
And what I really like about it is that it means that when Deku does borrow all of his friends' quirks for that brief period of time, he has full mastery because he's studied them throughout his entire school life. Basically, he's like been with these kids and watched them use their quirks, and he's written it down, and because he's obsessed with it, so he would know. He's the perfect guy to borrow their quirks because he's the only person who could use them to their actual full capacity.
Yeah, like he'd be the only one to effectively be able to use them. And with the way that his body's been like trained by One for All up to this point, like that would be perfect for him to take on all the powers of his fellow students.
Yeah, he's the only person who could handle the like quirk load at the same time. Yeah, so I think it's perfectly set up, and
oh my gosh,
and I think it'll be a great fight when it does happen.
Oh man. Oh, I hope that's what happens. Oh my god.
It would be cool if he borrowed Mirio's quirk too, but that might make him too powerful.
Like he's just able to phase in and out of out of the walls and floors and stuff.
So yeah, that was a good anime talk. Classic.
Yeah, if we don't get you back for Snyder stuff, we'll bring it back from My Hero, Connor.
Yeah.
All right, sure. Nice.
I don't know if y'all want to talk on Attack on Titan at some point. I'd be kind of down.
That's a good idea. I should just marathon Attack on Titan so I can talk about
Attack on Titan is great. Highly recommend.
Yep.
Okay.
That first season's pretty heavy. Like it's pretty depressing. But I'd highly recommend it. Great show. Really great anime. It deals with super high concepts. And I'm really interested to hear your take on what you think all of the metaphors of the show are, Connor.
Oh boy!
Yeah, dude, yeah. That might have to be a Marvel talk or anime talk after hours.
Yeah, that might have to be. Off
it gets very esoteric, is my understanding.
But I'd be very curious to hear your interpretation of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
And I think with that, it's safe to say we could go ahead and wrap up this Snyder talk.
Yes.
Oh, we're not going to have Martian Manhunter show up right before we go?
See, this is where Shelby would, barge in.
Yeah, this is where Shelby would just pop in to the voice chat. he would just... Yeah, he's our Martian Manhunter. But yeah, thanks again, guys. It's been a great recording session. It's been a blast being here. Yeah.
Maybe Venom 2. I don't know if that ever actually.
Oh, dude, please! Oh my God, dude, give me Venom. Oh,
I feel like Venom 2 and Morbius will be good ones to bring you back for.
Oh my God, there's still. I totally forgot about Morbius.
Yeah, that's still happening.
Yeah, yeah, 2022.
One of these days it'll come out.
Dude, amazing. Is Jared Leto still in it?
As far as,
of course.
Okay, good.
He's the main guy. I don't, like that movie.
Oh, man.
That movie's like done. Like it's wrapped. Like I think they finished it completely, and they're just like, because Sony doesn't have like a good streaming service to put it on.
Oh yeah, so I guess they just have to sit with it like in their hands. Like, all right, can movie theaters be open now?
All the Sony movies just kind of have to sit and wait.
Honestly, they could just throw those on HBO.
Yeah, they should just come up with a deal just to do it. Like, at this point, why are you waiting?
While we wait for the better quality films to come into the lights, Jake, where can we find you at?
You guys can find me anywhere on the internet at Corruption Cosplay with K's. Currently, I'm helping out a lot with Crimson Vision Studios. They're working on a lot of Power Rangers projects right now, and I've currently starred in 3 things that are in them now. Not starred, but I've been an actor in a couple of their projects. So go give them a follow. Go give them a check out. We're shooting episode 4 of Shattered Past on YouTube. It's pretty hype, dude. I'm playing the main villain of the whole series, so I'm pretty excited.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Playing Lord Draken, the evil version of Tommy.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, I've summarily murdered 2 other versions of Tommy now from the multiverse, and I'm working on my 4th. So I'm pretty excited. It's pretty cool. And we're getting a lot of good cameos in from actual Power Ranger actors and stuff. So everybody, if you get a chance, go check it out. It's on YouTube, so go give it a watch.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have the link for their channel in the description. Nice. And Connor, I don't know if you want to plug in anything.
Well, gosh, I mean, I haven't cosplayed in a fat minute. I mean, it's been more than...
You posted a pretty recent cosplay picture. I don't know if it was actually recent.
That was old,
but it was an old photo, but it was recently posted.
It was from like a year and a half ago, but I was scrolling around and I found it. It
was a cute one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am still, as always, at Mjolnir's Might on Instagram for other things, mostly non-cosplay related at this point.
Right, yeah, and you can find me at Negator7 anywhere you go, and then over at Unverse Podcast, still doing a bunch of stuff over there. So thanks, guys, for joining us, and as always,
we live in a society